Good to be back with the greatest sports fans in the world. This is the watch list for UFC 209. Jon Anik alongside Shelby and Mick Maynard, the guys who put it all together for your viewing enjoyment. And speaking of which, how good is this? UFC 209, Woodley versus Thompson 2, Saturday, March 4th, Las Vegas, Nevada, T-Mobile Arena. Let's start, of course, with the headliner, the rematch between Tyron Woodley and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Obviously, the first fight, super compelling, one of the better fights of 2016, and they'll run it back here in a few short weeks.
A fight so good that we are running it back, and that doesn't happen often. I think we had a lot of takeaways from the first fight. One, Woodley, in the blink of an eye, can turn a fight on its side.
Oh my goodness!
And two, just the absolute amazing durability of Wonderboy.
Yeah.
You know, and so you wonder, you know, is it going to be identical to the first fight? Have these guys learned anything more? I think Wonderboy has more to learn, actually, because I consider him more of a baby in the sport than Woodley, but I'm just excited for this fight.
Yeah, Woodley's confidence is unshakable. In terms of what we might see in the rematch, do you think it's going to play out stylistically similar to the first matchup?
I
How
do.
you see it? Yeah.
I don't see anything changing at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. You know, they had to do this. Obviously, we need to get a decisive result, and I do see it going exactly the same way.
Yeah, I do see, you know, Woodley's one of those guys that if it was a video game and you can control him, you know, that's a guy that you wouldn't lose. It's a guy you should be button mashing with, you know. He's just such a super athlete, and again, just so much horsepower and speed. If he's on, he's really difficult to beat.
Yeah, and I think if he gets this win, I think that would really solidify his legacy. I thought he won the first fight. I know that was the minority opinion. I think most people thought it was a draw, but for Tyron Woodley to get a signature win like that after the Lawler win, obviously, I think it would do wonders for just the long-term view of Tyron Woodley as a UFC fighter. Khabib Nurmagomedov, Tony Ferguson for the UFC Interim Lightweight Championship. Now, I remember being in a van with Joe Silva after Tony Ferguson submitted Edson Barboza, $100,000 in bonus money. And I said, Joe, off the record, dude, like, you giving him a title shot? And he's like, actually, I want to do Ferguson Nurmagomedov. That was late 2015, and now here in 2017, it shall be done, and it'll be 5 rounds with a belt on the line.
Yeah, I remember us talking about that, you know, a year and how many months ago, and we finally got it put together. We didn't think it was going to happen for a while there. But yeah, this is the fight. This is the only fight to make in the lightweight division right now. And as long as Conor is away, there is no doubt the winner of this is the best guy in the division. And I'm just excited for it, you know. You've got Nurmagomedov that he can hold anybody down if he wants to, but he doesn't just hold him down. He beats the hell out of you. Often, quick, high offensive output. It's amazing. But then you have Tony, and you know that's like holding down a feral cat. You know, so I'm excited for this fight.
Yeah, Eddie Bravo talks about Tony Ferguson training for like 6 straight hours, just otherworldly. He's won 9 in a row. That's not a misprint. That's not a misspeak. 9 in a row at 155 pounds. Of course, Khabib 8-0 in the UFC, 24-0 overall. A fight you put together, the rematch between Alistair Overeem and Mark Hunt. So 58th pro fight for the Reem. They fought back in 2008. Dream 5. Overeem won that one by Americana. Your thoughts on this rematch?
I mean, it's like a K1 dream matchup, isn't it? I mean, it's going to be kickboxing with little gloves. I think that, you know, back in 2008, you're right, when he lost by submission, it was a very different Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt has evolved completely. I mean, you're going to see a completely different guy right now, of course, and so it's going to be interesting. You know, those little gloves, Mark Hunt obviously hits very hard. I expect Overeem to try to keep distance, try to keep him at range, pepper him with kicks and look for his opportunities, but he's going to want to stay away from that big right hand, or it could be a short night. It's going to be interesting. You know, obviously Overeem has the kicks, so does Hunt, but Overeem has the size on him, I think, height-wise. It's going to be a fun fight. I'm really, really excited about this one. I was pretty fired up to be able to
I think that Overeem's a bit of a different animal as well now.
Yeah.
You know, where I don't think he's hit a submission since 2009. Kind of gone more back to an extremely good one-dimensional fighter, but more of a one-dimensional fighter. Whereas, you know, if you're going to beat Mark Hunt, well, you know, it better be on the ground because it's hard to do it standing.
Sure. Both guys figure to be long on motivation. Of course, the Reem coming off the title fight with Stipe Miocic in September, and for Mark Hunt, technically unbeaten over his last 3 after what happened with Brock Lesnar at UFC 200. So Hunt for sure will be motivated to get this one back against Alistair Overeem. Another fight, I want to get both of your thoughts on this, Sean. We'll start with you, Mirsad Bektic. I feel like every year when Fox asks me for a breakout fighter of the year, I keep going back to the well. Mirsad Bektic, he's 11-0, finally healthy, couple starts last year. And Darren Elkins, in a lot of respects, is where all featherweight win streaks go to die. That is one perennial tough out at 145.
You know, before I sign somebody, I always look for them to have, I always say this, to have a plan B and a plan C. You know, because usually on the regional circuits, you can get away, if you're really good at one thing, and Mirsad is a really good grappler.
Yeah.
That's another guy who's got a ton of horsepower. You know, he'll get you down and put you on your back and you can't get up, and he'll keep you there. And not many people can deal with that. So for me, with him, I've always been waiting for him to develop the next facet of his game.
Right.
Really to get that stand-up down. It's coming along nicely, and he's another super athlete. You know, and I think he is a guy with serious potential. I mean, top 5, top 3 potential. But he's facing a super veteran.
The damage.
The damage. I mean, I don't know. You just can't get that guy out of there. He just keeps coming at you, you know. So this is a really big test for him.
If I had to fight someone in a back alley, I would not choose Darren Elkins on this roster. I can tell you that much. So interesting with Mirsad Bektic, people draw comparisons to George St. Pierre. He was sort of painted with that brush pretty early on. Do you see him as highly as Sean does, as not just a potential top 5 guy, but potentially a future UFC champion?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been great to watch him come along. You know, I've been aware of him since before he got into the UFC, of course. And I do think they've got very, very similar styles. So you're right, Sean. I think this is going to be a situation where he's going to have to dig, maybe have to go to plan B, plan C, and to try to pull out this win. It's perfect, really. It's a perfect opportunity to show how far he's come along and if he's ready to get into that top 5.
Yeah, I agree. Perfect test for him at this point in time. All due respect to Russell Doan and some previous opponents, certainly toughest test to date for Mirsad Bektic. All right, final fight, and you guys can chime in or not on this one, but we're not finishing the watch list without talking about Lando Vannata. Hopefully at this point he sent John Makdessi like a coffee cake or something for the knockout of the year. So Lando Vannata, David Tamer. Tamer not getting all the headlines, but again, perfect in the UFC. Both of his UFC fights, knockouts, an impressive guy on the European circuit, and Vannata obviously right now all the rage.
Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes too, when you lose, you win, or your stock goes up in a loss. And no disrespect to Ferguson, but he fought one of the very best fighters on the planet and gave him a run for his money. And I think actually he started messing around a little too much, which might have cost him the fight. But maybe that's just how good Vannata is. You know, then he comes back and wins in a highlight reel knockout of the year, spinning hook kick.
He got him. Wheel kick KO by Lando Vannata. It's all over. Out of nowhere.
Now he's facing a guy who's actually another really good kickboxer. And I think that people don't realize is that Vannata, he does have a ground game. He won actually, I think, the first few fights of his pro career by submission. So that's a guy. He's got a plan B, you know, and will he have to use it to take out Tamer, who's a really good stand-up fighter, you know, might be able to match him. And so he's got to change gears and take it down and show the other facet of his game.
For David Tamer, right? I mean, these are the opportunities you wait for, right? The Vannata, prohibitive favorite, a guy who has a lot of steam after what he did last year, and Tamer can immediately vault onto the radar of UFC fans. If he
Oh, absolutely. Oh, this is going to be a fun fight. Yeah, so this is a great opportunity for him, and really I do hope that they just keep it standing. I just want to see them throw down.
They just might. We'll see
I
how it
do
all
too.
plays out. UFC 209, Woodley versus Thompson 2. Our next pay-per-view coming up Saturday, March 4th, T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, Nevada. Can't wait for it. For Mick, Maynard, and Sean Shelby, I'm Jon Anik. As always, thank you for watching The Watch List. We'll be back for UFC 210.